All right, this video is more of a instructional video on primarily the actual conditions of the trail up Mount Elizabeth in Kitimat. So we're just here, we're just walking the last tens of meters to the peak. So what I tried to include is like actual footage of the actual trail, and I'll show some Google Earth with a route superimposed. I recorded on GPS the actual route that I walked up to the peak and then partway down. This climb is, some people believe it's dreadfully difficult, but it's not. I'm old, I'm fat, and I'm kind of crippled, and I manage quite easily. And it is dangerous, like right here, right? Take another step and a couple 3,000 feet later you stop. But with reasonable care, it's the danger and injury and whatever can be avoided quite easily. The thing is, the route is a little bit difficult to discern, especially between the peak and what they call Little Elizabeth, which is a preliminary peak, whatever it is, 700 or 800 meters to the east. So that's looking north. That's the way back. All right, I'm just going to stop here and go to Google Earth. All right, so this is the picture more or less from the north, looking at there's the peak here at 3 o'clock. And the red is the actual recorded track that I recorded that day from basically timberline up the ridge, up to what they call Little Elizabeth. There's a repeater station tower here. And it's from the tower to the peak that's where all the difficulty is. And this mountain has a bit of history in that there was 2 fatalities up here, I think 20 years ago or so. And I believe the one person died along this black line is a cliff. So I don't know where exactly, but somewhere along this line, this ridge, this crest, is kind of a knife edge, and it gets sharper and sharper. And there's actually a bit of verticality right here. So here's where the problem, where we'll start the next bit of imagery is right about here. So we're walking down. So it's very easy. This is 14%, 30%. It's not terribly steep. So you come down and you have to turn a hard 90 right here. There's a great big arrow on the rock, arrow pointing uphill. So right there you turn a 90 and you head more or less east. It's fairly steep, but it's not dreadful. And off you go. You'll see that where the track above is where I walked up. I wasn't familiar with the trail, so what I did is I noticed there's no markers or anything like that. So I just kept about to here. I kept under this cliff. This cliff you see here with the black line. I just came up to it and just walked on the bottom of it, and I just kept going up and across until you come to this very enormous cliff you can't help but notice. Then you just turn a left and up you go. So that's where we'll start the video. Like I say, we're right about here. We're walking down, and then there's all this tumble down rock. If you stick a bit to the north, it's very easy. I went up, but rather difficult. Even 30 meters separating is quite difficult, or more difficult. So you come down. There's a place here where there's a V-shaped or pyramidal, inverted pyramid shape of heather, which is a great landmark. You know where you are then, right? So we come. I'll go back here. All right, this is the coming up. This is, I'll stop when we're at this spot, but down through here is a very easy walk on rock. Same as here, it's just heather and rock and whatnot. And I chose to walk on the snow along this section. I'll show it. I don't know if the trail is actually, I drew in this blue line. I don't know if that's the actual trail. It may be for people that are reluctant to walk on the slope here, the snow slope. And anyway, when I went up that year, this was all snow pretty much. You come to the base of the slope here, you walk up a rock fall, then you're onto heather, and then you're right at the tower. So we'll carry on with that. All right, so here we are. We're just looking back at the peak, then we're looking down this ridge, and you're heading more or less northeast. Now, if you get caught up here in cloud or whatever, and you look down this line here, down this ridge, you might consider, well, I can see the valley down there, and I can see the logging roads and everything, so I'll just head down that way. But it brings you to, this is looking from the north, by the way, from the next mountain over. And we'll notice that, all right, you're going down the peak, down that ridge. You come to when you're right at the end of it, you come to this cliff. Right, so that's not something you can go down. And there's a cliff on the far side as well. All right, so here we are. We're speeded it up. We're walking down that razorback, or what do we call it? So the cliff is on the right, very, very large cliff. I'm sorry, on the left is the cliff on the north side. So it's wonderful walking on rocks and heather and whatnot. So here we are, where we turn to 90, and by that time you'll see the route to the east, right? So you know where you are and everything. But again, if you're in full cloud, you're in trouble if you don't know exactly where you are. See, it's too steep on the right at 3 o'clock. So you've carried on a few hundred meters and you made it to here, and now it's in very gentle heather and rock. Very easy to walk here. All right, so we're looking back from where we came. There's the last pile of rocks. Now that patch of heather you see is an excellent landmark. If you're using a GPS, if you're in full cloud or something, once you got here, you'd know exactly where you are, right? And you know that from here, it's about 180 degree bearing to the tower. So you're more or less going in a straight line. All right. This is from the tower, looking at the peak. This is the route. It's not nearly as steep as it looks in this photograph. But you notice the cliff that runs from the center to 3 o'clock. I think that's where one of these people died. You can't manage that cliff. You can't go down it. So here we are. We're just about to go onto the snow patch. And the great thing about the snow is that if you go up this way, once you find your tracks again, even if you're in full cloud, you can certainly see your tracks, right? So you can have confidence. I didn't feel like the need to get off the snow. There's that crack between the rock. You don't know how deep it is, right? So you don't want to get too close. And you can't go down there. Down there is a glacier and cliffs and solid rock. And so we're at the bottom. All right, if you go up onto these rocks somewhere, if you want to stay on the rocks, you got to find a way up onto up this bit of a vertical stuff. There may be a trail there, I don't know. The snow is easier. All right, so we're right at the low point here. And we're looking at the tower, looking to the east. Okay, we're just looking back, right? So that was the route, more or less. You see how steep the rocks are? Right of the trail, to the right of that snow. So we traversed, contour marched across a bit of snow. We're at the bottom of the tower hill. There's all kinds of tumble down. So you have to go up there right where that notch is. So we're at the notch, looking back. Now we've got to the top of the tumble down, and you come onto heather, and much gentler bit of ground, and then you're right at the tower. And you can see there's about a tennis court sized area. It's more or less flat. You can land a helicopter here easily. All right, so now we're starting down the north-south ridge. And the trail is, at least it was then, it's quite visible, like the actual footpath. So once you make it to here, you can just follow the path. Like the footpath is worn into the ground, so you're good, right? You can't get lost from here. But if you, quite easily, you could fall 20 or 30 feet. This is an interesting spot. You're at the bottom of the first pitch, and the mountain pinches quite tightly here. So you have a cliff on the right, and on the left it's very, very steep. I made a mistake here. I lost the path. You see, it's right at 12 o'clock. When I went up there, I went way to the left. I just found my own way. Right, so this is typical path. Looking back at the tower, this spot here is the last water, at least when I went up there, that was the last little pond of water. I didn't find any ponds at the top or above that, there was just snow. So that's Douglas or Kitimat Arm, that water in Kitimat. So we're coming down there. That day there were 4 wolves. They must have, they were just ahead of me. They must have saw me and just buggered off. Right, so this is kind of sort of where they went. they didn't go down the trail. They went right across. They went across the snow and right across to the other side. All right, so there's the peak. And again, you can see that you can't go down the front, the south face. It's just too steep. All right, we're almost down in the timber. There's two stretches like this. They're, I don't know, maybe 100 yards long. Someone's put a rope, the top one. You don't really need it or anything, just in the way. So it's just a bit of a steep descent. This is where you want to put your trekking pole away. You don't want to use it to go down. You end up catapulting yourself. There's lots of branches to hold on to. This is the second section. This is just above the timber. This is probably the most difficult part of the whole trip. And only on the downward. Coming up is wonderful, just like going upstairs. And here we are right in the Alpine. This is where there's a plaque in the rock commemorating those people that died. All right, here we are. This is the trail from the parking lot right here. And by the way, May of 2023, I went up here and the road is completely drivable. Somebody cut all the down trees off the road. So you see, this is a really pleasant trail. 35%, 45%. It kind of zigs and zags, but see, 30, 20%. You know, it's not very steep. The only steep bit is right here. Right when there's a viewpoint right here. You can't help but notice it. There's basically flat. There's a viewpoint. You can see the mountain for the first time, the peak and whatnot. Great place to take a photograph. And then right away, it's quite steep, 35%, 58%. You come to a little bog, little pond, and then there's a little bit here, 40%. It's a little bit wet and the roots are showing. It's a little bit bad for your feet. And then you're right out of the Alpine. So anyway, thanks for watching if you got this far. I hope this helps. Again, finally, you can see there's, if you take care, and if you're even reasonably fit, this is a completely pleasurable walk. But there's certainly danger, right? You got this cliff here. I turned off my black line. But again, this black line is a cliff, and it winds all the way around about to here. So, like I say, just take care. Anyway, thanks for watching.